The story of 12 sisters from Thailand. There's a love story, family, witchcraft, cannibalism, just your kind of story. A long time ago, there's a merchant who's very rich and very successful, but he and his wife couldn't have any kids. And so he offered 12 bananas to a tree with some superpowers apparently, because after some time his wife became pregnant. In fact, she became pregnant 12 times. Unfortunately, there's a trade-off. As his family life was becoming okay, his finances wasn't, and so he started realizing that it is just so hard to feed 12 mouths, 14 including his and his wife. And so he took the 12 daughters, they all ended up being girls. He took his 12 daughters and left them in the forest. Unfortunately or fortunately, the youngest kid, the youngest daughter, left crumbs on their way, and so they were able to come back. And so the merchant was just hell-bent on losing them again, and so he made another trip with the 12 kids and made sure that they will not be able to come back. And this time he was successful. Fortunately for the 12 kids, there was a beautiful woman who took pity on them, and so she took the 12 kids, the 12 daughters, and her name is Santumala. And so she would feed them, and she would leave during the day to work and then come back with food and whatever. However, there was this man in town who told the 12 daughters or the 12 kids that Santumala is actually not a beautiful woman, that she's actually an ogress, and that time will come when they're big enough, she was going to eat them. And so the 12 sisters decided to leave. While they ended up in this river, and while they were cleaning themselves, a king saw them, fell in love with them, and made them wives. So when Santumala made it back to their house, she learned that the 12 sisters left. And so she was really very mad, and she was able to track them down. So apparently she's a witch, and she had some sort of kick-ass superpower. So she was able to track them down, and she learned that they were wives of this king. So Santumala transformed herself into a very beautiful woman and went to the kingdom where the 12 sisters were. And she made the king fall in love with her. And the king did actually fall in love with her. But apparently the 12 sisters sort of started becoming jealous because there's another woman who's favored more than they are. So they were very polite towards her, but they're not actually kind. And so Santumala actually feigned sickness and told the king that the only thing that would cure her is the juice, get this, the juice from the eyes of the 12 sisters. So she told the king, you need to gouge their eyes out, juice it, and then that's going to cure me. And the king was so in love with her that he assented. He said, okay, I'm going to do it. And so he had his men, and this men gouged the eyes of these 12 sisters. After that, he decided he was going to banish the 12 sisters, and so he put them in a cave and told the servants that nobody is allowed to bring them food. Apparently, the 12 sisters were actually pregnant, okay? They were pregnant. And so when they gave birth, because they had no nutrition, no food, no source of light or whatever, their kids were still born, except for the 12th sister. Her name is Phao. And also, Phao only had one of her eyes gouged out, so she still had one more eye. So when she learned that her child is not dead, she hid it from her 12 sisters. She told them that she lost the body of of her son. Apparently, it's because the 12 sisters decided that since their children were dead, they were going to cut their children to 12 parts, and they were going to share it among themselves so that they have something to eat. But as I've said, Phao managed a way to lie to her 12 sisters, and she was able to secretly raise the kid that she had, and his name is Rothasan. So eventually, I guess it was revealed to the 11 other sisters that her son was actually alive. And so when Rothasan was old enough, he was able to find his way out of the cave. And so he would leave the cave and earn money by cockfighting. And he would return with food. Ruthassen started becoming popular in that area because he was good at games. Apparently, he wasn't just good at cockfighting, he was good in every game that he would play. And so the king, this is the same king that married the 12 sisters and is still married to Santumala, heard of the reputation of this kid Ruthassen. He called Ruthassen to the kingdom, so that the palace, so that he could play a game with them. And so apparently Ruthassen won the game, whatever it was that they were playing. Apparently Santumala learned, I don't know if she learned it because of Ruthassen, but she learned that the 12 sisters are still alive. And so she feigned sickness again and told the king that there is this certain plant in her kingdom where she lived with the 12 sisters, that there's a certain plant there that would cure her and that Ruthassen will be able to fetch it for her. And so the king sent Ruthassen. Apparently Santumala adopted another daughter, and her name is Mary. And so Santumala wrote a note to Mary. And the note says that there is going to be a guy that will arrive in our house, in my kingdom, and you have to eat him. So this is a bunch of cannibalistic people. So Ruthassen, when he was about to make a journey to Santumala's kingdom, he met a rishi. A rishi is like an enlightened person, a magician of sort. So he's an enlightened person, and because of his enlightenment, he also develops superpowers or something like that. And so he gave Ruthassen a flying horse. And so one time when Ruthassen decided to rest, there was a sage who altered the note that Santumala wrote. So instead of murder and eat this man, it says marry this man. Okay, so when Ruthassen reached the kingdom and met and gave the note to Mary, Mary apparently is she's an actually a beautiful and kind-hearted person. So when she saw the note and it says Mary, and she looked at Ruthassen, and Ruthassen is apparently hot and gorgeous, she said, sure, why not? And so they lived together and they lived happily. But Ruthassen couldn't forget the 12 sisters in that cave. And so what Ruthassen did was give Mary a lot of wine. And so she fell asleep. And while she was asleep, he stole the eyes of his aunts and the one eye of his mother. And he started making his way back to the cave. So when Mary woke up and realized that her husband is gone, she suddenly became a giant when she saw that Ruthassen was flying away with the flying horse that he got from this rishi. And so she became a giant, and she was running after him, and she was screaming, Ruthassen, don't leave me, and whatever. And Ruthassen threw a magic wood between them. And so the space between him and Mary became an ocean. And so Mary was so brokenhearted, and so she just gave up and was just so sad because her husband was running away. But Ruthassen turned around and said that I promise to come back for you. After this business, this business that I need to settle, I will come back for you. Ruthassen actually went back to the kingdom and murdered Santumala, and then went back to the cave and freed his aunts and his mother. And so he gave them back their eyes, and so they were able to see again. And then when the king saw them again, they were able to regain their status as the queens in the kingdom. And what Ruthassen did is actually go back to Mary. So he actually fulfilled his promise to go back to Mary, but Mary is already dead. She died of sadness. She was so sad and so brokenhearted, and she just lost the will to live. So when Ruthassen found out that Mary is already dead, he also found out that she made a vow. She made a vow to follow Ruthassen in every reincarnation. And so he was also so sad. He carried the body of his wife and he died with her. But according to tales, they would, in the present time, whenever they would reincarnate, they would still find their way back into each other. And that's the end of the story of the 12 sisters. Hope you like it.